everyone. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from Sportsnet. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the live post-game Kenny and Renny Jets show after Game 5 of the season, as they took a big chunk out of the Nashville Predators tonight with a 6-4 win. And boy, oh boy, you got to say, this Winnipeg Jets team, they were supposed to be struggling without the likes of Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele, both lost to COVID. Instead, they go out and they put up 11 goals in 2 games and look like they are playing their best hockey of the season without possibly their 2 best players. Going to bring Ken Wiebe in to talk about it. You know what that means. Best part of the show when we get to hear Ken's music. Here he comes. Ken, my friend, you are looking good as always. How are you doing this evening?
Doing tremendous, Sean. We're testing out something different in hopes that the internet connection is a little more stable for both of us here today. I'm upstairs and you're downstairs, and interesting tilt here tonight. Obviously, some interesting moments for sure. A tough second shift, I guess it was, but Jets seem to find their way for the most part. But they kind of allowed the Predators to hang around in the game, but overall a pretty, a mostly stout performance. I would say the leaky penalty kill would be something that we'll dive into a little bit later on. But for a team that struggled out of the gate to score goals in the first 2 games of the season, Sean, 16 goals now in the last 3 games. It's been pretty impressive on the offensive side, and as you pointed out on our post-game hit on Sportsnet.ca, the defense is playing a big role in some of that offense that's being produced.
Yeah, it was interesting. We Mark Askin, who's one of the top producers in hockey, period, was in tonight producing the game. I love working with Marco. He's absolutely awesome. And I always come with a book of stories that I could tell. And Marco chewed through that book like crazy. You know, I was on telling stories. And so at some point I had to think, like, I got to think up some new stories on the spot here. And one of the things I thought and was, spurned on or sparked by the performance of Nate Schmidt was just the idea of Nate Schmidt was brought in, Brennan Dillon to a degree, brought in. Good luck, Erica. Hey, that's a good point. At one point, we used to put the headband on, and that was supposed to be good luck. Well, maybe it's the haircut. They haven't lost since, so here we go. But the idea that Nate Schmidt was brought in to get the offense going from the point. The Jets were the worst team in the NHL last season when it came to producing offense from the point. Well, so far this season, the Jets have scored 20 goals. They've got 20 points from the point. I believe Dillon had a point tonight. Pionk had a point tonight. Nate Schmidt had 3. This is a different looking offense from this Jets team. And I thought, since we're talking about Nate Schmidt, the idea of what he was doing from the point, 2 of his assists come from not, the old idea. You're trying to teach kids when they're young and they're playing the point, just get the puck on the net. It doesn't have to be a laser that beats the goaltender. Sometimes it's just getting it there. And on the broadcast, we showed a couple examples of Nate Schmidt doing what he does so well, just drawing that puck in and just flipping it on the net. He gets a tip in from Christian Vesaalainen. He gets a tip in from Pierre-Luc Dubois, who we're going to have to talk about because, boy, oh boy, he's just continuing to do what he does.
You don't say.
Winnipeg Jets. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Actually, I'm just going to transition to a funny story. Mark Askin, the guy that I'm talking about earlier on, gets on and we're talking to Nate Schmidt after the game, and we all know Nate Schmidt. Everyone on here knows how good Nate Schmidt is as a talker. And Mark Askin hops on and says, Hey, Nate, you'll remember me. We met in Edmonton a couple of years back, and I told you that when you were done playing, you got to go into TV. And I'm like, yeah, Mark, you and the 24 other television producers who have told him that since that happened. We all know Nate Schmidt can talk, and we all know if he wants a career in, either the booth or on a panel somewhere afterwards, he's going to get that. Look at me, Ken. You're wearing off on me. I'm going to the buffet line right off the bat here. So I'm going to stop myself before I keep going down the buffet line, and just right off the bat get your thoughts on the game and what you saw out there.
Yeah, I mean, let's stick with Nate Schmidt briefly, and it's hard to be brief when you're talking about Nate Schmidt, who basically single-handedly was ready to take over the post-game Zoom call, Sean, after a question was asked when I asked him about what it was like to see Christian Vesaalainen score his first goal. After he gave an incredibly eloquent answer, he turns over to Vesaalainen and said, "I want to know what you're doing with the puck." It was just another one of those moments where, I mean, hasn't taken long for Nate Schmidt to become a fan favorite. You could see on the day that he was made available to the media. He came on our show. He was absolutely fantastic. Massive personality. And hey, we understand what the angst level was like 3 games into this season. Having someone like Nate Schmidt and also someone like Brendan Dillon, guys who have played for winning teams, guys who have that upbeat personality, it would have been easy for the Jets to adopt the whole "woe is me" attitude, coming home finding out that, no, Mark, guess what? You're winless in 3, and oh great, your top center is going to join your captain in COVID protocol and not be available. Instead, the Jets have sort of found a way to right the ship. They're 2-2-1. They're going out on the road trip with some confidence and some swagger, which is what we're seeing from Pierre-Luc Dubois up front right now. Same with Kyle Connor. But man, the defense, the defense is still in a work in progress, as in the team defense, as a whole. But boy, oh boy, Nate Schmidt has had a huge impact here, not only on the power play, but in terms of the 5-on-5 play. He's talked about it a lot. When when Josh Morrissey and Nate Schmidt have their feet moving and they're going up ice, man, the Jets are a dangerous team. And the other thing, let's get to, the pass Nate Schmidt makes to Kyle Connor for that one-timer goal on the power play, absolutely exceptional, Sean. He's had a couple of no-lookers, and man, right away, Nate Schmidt tossing bouquets over to guys like Mike Green and guys of that nature. I think also then he mentioned John Carlson after that as well before going to Vegas. And I was fortunate enough to cover one of those Capitals-Rangers series early during my time with Post Media, and seeing Mike Green, really roll in those times when he was one of the best power play quarterbacks in the league. One of the great guys for Nate Schmidt to learn from. And man, he's made a big impact at all ends of the ice. And I think, as we've said from the very beginning, I think, when you see a captain and an alternate captain both be out of the lineup, Nate Schmidt would be able to spread his wings even more. Like, this is a guy who's not going to be quiet very often, and by his own admission has said to Josh Morrissey, "Don't be afraid to tell me to be quiet once in a while." Having a calming presence and an upbeat guy like Nate Schmidt, I don't think you can discount the value of that after the start that the Jets had and the circumstances they were facing at the start of this homestand, where, I mean, hey, let's not kid ourselves. A lot of the folks in our chat room were thinking 4-1 was a distinct possibility. Instead, the Jets have sort of found a way to get most of their game looking pretty impressive at the time. Again, tests are going to get tougher for sure. Still lots to work on, but that's normal at the 5-game mark. And I'm going to have to say the Jets are feeling a lot better about themselves than they probably did a week ago.
I'm just going to go off script just for a second here, Ken, because I wanted to show you something. Had a really interesting or fun moment tonight. Mm-hmm. I was over in where I live, where the Zambonis come out. I basically do my opening there. We open up the doors. It's a great shot, looks great. And then I just basically kind of sit there, kind of by the fans. It's really good because you get to stay in the fans. It's maybe not so good sometimes because every once in a while, like happened on the very last game I did in Winnipeg before this, a fan had their Caesar by their foot and accidentally kicked it, and it landed on my head and all over top of me. And I only remember that because one of the guys from the Zamboni came by tonight and he was like, hey, you look pretty dry. Did anyone drop their drink on you tonight?
Oh
They
my
thought it
God,
was
that's
hilarious
incredible.
over there.
So I got one quick one, and I'm not trying to be Mr. One-Upper, but my first trip to the original Yankee Stadium back in 2000, Yankees and Mariners, I'm sitting in the upper deck at Yankee Stadium in the right field corner, and the gentleman from New York behind me accidentally kicks his spittoon with chew in it right down the right side of my back. Wasn't the full Caesar on the headshot, but I turned around and I'm like,
you win, Ken.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Well, what are you going to do, right? I mean, it's like, obviously it was an accident and it was just like nothing you could do. Fortunately, didn't have to go down to do any interviews after the game that day, but that's my fan, crazy fan story, the dumping of the glass, and it was not very pleasant as you reacted.
Yeah, no doubt. Matthew Thompson has it right here. Ken wins, no doubt. Okay, so back to the story that I hijacked my own story. But at some point, Dwight Hurst, a real good buddy of ours, he's always showing up on the show, coaches the AAA Eastman hockey team in first place right now, by the way. And also one of his former players has been graded an A prospect and could potentially go in the upcoming draft in the first round this year. Dwighty and I were talking about that. He's super excited about that.
Who's the player? Who's the player?
Denton Matechuk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing that.
Matechuk, buddy. No worry, I can help you out here. I actually, small world Manitoba. I used to play baseball. I used to play baseball against Jason. His dad, Jason. Yeah, good athlete, good coach, good baseball and hockey family.
Well, Dwighty coached him anyways. I had a conversation with Dwight tonight. I like to interact with the fans whenever I can. And at some point during the show, I saw a fan and he was like trying to get my attention. And I looked over and I'm trying to place him. Where do I know this guy from? We've all got masks on, right? Which makes it tough. He had long hair. So I was thinking maybe it's someone I know with COVID hair. It turns out it was just one of the viewers from the show. So I took this picture here. If it pops up, check it out. That's what he did. He's like, no, you don't know me, but I know you. And he held that up.
Awesome.
He's there with his gal. And it was just a super fun moment. We love it when we get to meet up with the K&R fans. If you are listening, if you just saw yourself, and if you are listening to this, you won't be listening to it live, but if you're listening to it later, make sure you drop a comment because we love it when we get to meet up with people. And that was just a really, really fun moment. Love that entirely. Let's get into Pierre-Luc Dubois. I'm going to get into him early because I said this last time, and I want to make it clear. I talked about this on the last show last season. I was one of the people who'd said, I'm not seeing it with Pierre-Luc Dubois. There was a lot of people in our chat room, you yourself, Ken, who'd said, listen, Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to figure it out. This is a good pickup by the Winnipeg Jets. It's going to work out. I never said it wasn't going to work out, but I was definitely wanted to kind of be on the forefront of saying, this is what I see, and I'm not seeing it. I'm not saying he can't turn, but I don't think he's getting his feet under him. And I think I was right. Last season, he never did get his feet underneath him. He's admitted that. But coming in, I was definitely skeptical about the idea that missing some time, COVID, coming across the border, all that was the reason that you could hang on Pierre-Luc Dubois not finding his way with the Winnipeg Jets last season. And I was fully in, I'll believe it when I see it mode. I am seeing it right now. Once again tonight, a great game by Pierre-Luc Dubois. What did you see?
Yeah, you're seeing it all over the ice, and I think it was our colleague Mike McIntyre who first used the word swagger upstairs here in describing how Dubois is playing. He's really doing an excellent job of moving his feet all over the ice. We talked about it. His engagement level has been high throughout the course of this season, and this is something we talked about in our post-game hit, Sean, after the win over the Anaheim Ducks. I think at a lot of, it's tough sometimes for a guy who's been playing a number one center role to play a little bit more of a complementary role. Obviously, Pierre-Luc Dubois knows that Mark Scheifele is the number one center of the Winnipeg Jets and will continue to be when he's back. However, the Jets have a great opportunity to have more of a 1A and 1B situation rather than having more of a 1-2 for their top two lines, and you'll see what happens from there. But Dubois really checking in, Check the receipts. Yeah, we've got a lot of receipts, and the stack of receipts had to be really high because there were a lot of non-believers out there in the chat room. And again, you understand why people wanted more, because there was more to give, and Pierre-Luc Dubois was the guy saying that he had more to give. So he put in the work. He's ready to go, and he's had an absolutely fantastic start on the campaign here. And I think that we're seeing a confident version of the player, and the confidence is only going to grow. And it's not just Dubois playing with confidence on that line. Kyle Connor is absolutely flying out there, Sean. He's just been fantastic. And, you know, whatever the number is, he could push 50. I mean, again, you don't want to go crazy, and yes, there's going to be dry spells at times, but boy, oh boy, he looks so dangerous on the ice right now. He's playing like a man possessed, and I've said this before. Kyle Connor looking like a guy who not only wants to be on the U.S. Olympic team, but wants to play a primary role as a scoring sensation on the U.S. Olympic team. That's what I see from him right now. And man, those two together, I'm going to say it right now. I know that there has been a lot of, the fallback is always Connor, Scheifele, and Wheeler. To me, I think Maurice will keep Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois together, at least initially when Mark Scheifele comes back. How the rest of the line shake down, I'm not sure, but I do see that as a legitimate possibility and really could see it, clicking for some time. And Andrew Kopp could be part of that as well, where Kopp did such a nice job on the right side with Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. Maybe you see him move over on the left side there. And, I think you should share this insight that Paul Maurice talked about. A lot of Svechnikov, another nice game. But the real chemistry right now is between Connor and Dubois. Svechnikov is fitting in nicely as a complementary piece. I could even see a scenario where maybe Nikolaj Ehlers is in with that line at some point. But, obviously Ehlers could move to the left with Scheifele or to the right, depending on how things shake down. But I do see a scenario where there is the potential for Connor and Dubois to be together. And I say that because what we saw last year, Sean, the first line that was together was Connor, Dubois, and Ehlers. So we know that Paul Maurice hasn't been afraid to go to that well before. But as you mentioned, there didn't seem to be as much chemistry, at least initially, between Dubois and Ehlers. That's not to say that it couldn't come at some point, but it hasn't come immediately.
So Ken, you are right on with your take of the idea that Dubois may stick around with Kyle Connor. And like you said, I've got a little bit of insight on this. The broadcasters, we get to meet with the coach kind of separately from the rest of the media. We had a good conversation with Paul Maurice today. And I was interested, as some of you are clearly from your comments in the chat room right now, about the idea of Svechnikov. And we did a story on it, if you were watching the broadcast tonight, about the fact that Svechnikov and Dubois used to play together with the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles on a line. They were great. And the idea of kind of trying to take players from way back and see if you can't replicate some of that chemistry. And I used the example last season, the Oilers brought in Dominic Cahoon to play alongside Leon Draisaitl, two German players who'd played together for Team Germany, and thought they could take some of that old existing chemistry and try and make that work. So I had wondered if Paul Maurice was seeing that with Svechnikov. He's not really. That's what he said. He thought that maybe those two players in the first game, now I wasn't able to talk to him about tonight's game, but he thought in that first game they played together that they were maybe trying to force the chemistry, and that chemistry can be a tricky thing if it's been established at the junior level or in a different league, because it's an entirely different league, and the things that they used to do at that level, the things that they would try, won't necessarily work at the NHL level. And there were also a couple turnovers that he saw on Svechnikov's side of the ice that he wasn't overly happy with. Tough go for Svechnikov. He's going from being a healthy scratch on this team or being out of the lineup to jumping up to the top line. That's a big ask. Doesn't matter who you are, but he gets a point that night. That line together gets 6 points in the first game they play together. And then you see again tonight, Svechnikov gets the second assist on a Pierre-Luc Dubois goal. He gets the puck from Pierre-Luc Dubois on the boards, and I thought you saw in that moment a little bit of those two players knowing where each other were going to be, knowing how to play off each other. Basically, Dubois got it on the wall. He hands it over and then heads over to the front of the net. You could see that I felt like there was a little bit of chemistry.
I agree.
But you are right. Whether or not Paul Maurice sees, with Svechnikov, the idea of keeping him with that line, he is very intrigued by the potential for chemistry between Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor. And why not? It was mentioned here, I think Stonewall Dave said it. Kyle Connor's a driver right now. He is clearly a driver. Awesome. Absolutely phenomenal. Awesome. You talked about the idea of him scoring 50 goals this year. That's another story that we did in the broadcast, the idea of him getting there. If he does, he'll be the first Winnipeg Jet player to do it since Keith Tkachuk did it in, I think, 76 games. How impressive is that? Back in 1996, that's how long it's been since we saw that in Winnipeg. And hey, just a couple of years, but Jamnov hit 50, didn't he, Ken?
Good question. It's possible that he did.
I believe he did. We know that Teemu Selanne did because he hit 76, but man, oh man, 50-goal seasons grew on trees back in the 90s in Winnipeg. But to get back to the point, the original player that Paul Maurice looked at when they got Pierre-Luc Dubois, he sat down and he started putting names on the board, and the two names that he was most intrigued by with Pierre-Luc Dubois coming in was Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor. We didn't really see it pay off back then, and we know the reasons why. We know Pierre-Luc Dubois had to sit out for a while. We've heard all that. But now Pierre-Luc Dubois, all things equal, him coming into a season feeling like he's got his feet underneath him, this has been an opportunity. Wheeler and Scheifele being out of the lineup, it's been an opportunity for Paul Maurice to revisit that gut instinct that he had about those two players fitting together. And that gut instinct is looking really, really good right now. They look every bit an NHL top line. And if they're able to take that line and now take off Mark Scheifele with Nick Ehlers or with Wheeler or however they decide to work that, you've definitely got the potential for a 1A, 1B, or 1A competing with 1A style situation in Winnipeg. And again, I take a look at this situation of Wheeler and Scheifele being out, and it may be one of those turning points that we asked the question of Paul Maurice, what did you learn about your team with these guys going out? I got to think that after 2 games without those players, Paul Maurice has learned something about this lineup, or definitely learned different ways to tweak this lineup and use it going forward. Yeah,
and a quick thing for folks, if folks think that I'm down on Svechnikov, that could not be further from the case. However, all that I'm saying is that you don't earn a spot in the top 6 based on two strong games. So for me, I've liked a lot about Svechnikov's game. He's been very sorry, my power fell out here. Svechnikov's been very good. I just think that there's still potential for that line to be at an even more dynamic level if Ehlers is on that line. So, and a quick report, as pointed out here by one of our folks. No 50-point seasons for Jamnov. Had some big seasons, but never had 50. Really like Svechnikov's game a lot. I thought he was more comfortable today, and not just the offensive side. Another blocked shot. It looked like he took one off the hand again, left hand. But I've liked his game a lot. I want to see more of that line. All I'm saying is, as you mentioned, the line has the potential to be even more dynamic with the Nikolaj Ehlers. They're given that extra speed element. But there's no better story. There's no better story in this camp than Svechnikov earning full-time work as a guy who was, discarded to the scrap heap by the Detroit Red Wings. You almost never see a first-round pick. At least not somebody who's been drafted in the top 20 be cast loose after 4 seasons. I mean, yes, we know there were injuries and everything else, but someone else mentioned that the potential for it really helping Dubois feel a bit more at ease, having someone like Svechnikov around, who we know he was very close with during his time in Cape Breton, and he made a push from there as well. So I do think that he, as we've also mentioned, there's potential for him to potentially mix well with Adam Lowry, but depending on how that top 9 maybe shakes down as we move along. And I also someone we also need to talk about, Adam Lowry. Big game for Adam Lowry. That goal that he scored, again, I hate it when people in the chat room talk about the quality of hands for some certain players in the NHL. this guy scored 45 goals in the Western Hockey League, and you saw on the move to the backhand through the pads. You spoke to John Hines about UC Saros this morning. This is a guy who has gone through one of the most outstanding stretches of hockey for a goalie who went from a backup to a starter. His ability to pull away, great diving effort by Dylan DeMello to spring him, but for Lowry to break in after what was such a deflating shift for the Winnipeg Jets, where they couldn't clear the puck on, again, 2 or 3 occasions, and it ends up in the back of the net, 75 seconds into the game, to be able to respond that quickly and with a goal like that, which was all effort, and then hands at the end of that, to me, that was a really important game. And there too, Vesaalainen scoring for the first time. We know he's been given a long leash by Paul Maurice, and for a while it had been going pretty quietly for Christian Vesaalainen, but he got a really nice shot on goal on the game against Anaheim, kind of rattled the cage of John Gibson, if you will, and today he had a bunch of good shifts, really did a nice job with some board battles down low, and then he gets the reward on the tip, as you mentioned, with that seeing eye shot from Nate Schmidt. Schmidt was laughing at the quality of the shot to the net, but the tip was very impressive.
It's going wide. It's going wide of the net, and he redirects it right across the net inside the far post. It's a great redirection. And again, the idea, Schmidt can laugh about it all he wants. He knows as well as anyone that it's just about getting the puck on net. It's about giving those guys who go to the front of the net a chance to affect the play, and that's exactly what Christian Vesaalainen did to get his first goal in the NHL. I can tell you he probably feels a huge sigh of relief to get that out of the way, because
you can tell.
It was starting to, this is a guy who's a scorer, and again, there was a point I was seeing him on the ice during practice, and it's like, this guy has got this shot. When is it going to, turn into something for him? Well, he doesn't get it from one of those wicked shots of his, but he gets it no less. Now he can stop worrying about it and just start focusing on getting in on it. Wanted to address a couple things that were said here.
How about Ehlers? Let's go to him.
Let's go to Ehlers. But before we go there, I just wanted to go to, oh no, I lost it here. Yeah, let's go to Ehlers. We talked about him in the broadcast. I've had a great Ehlers story that I can't wait to share, and it came from us interviewing him on Kenny and Renny.
Right.
It's the story that he had about
his dad whispering in his ear.
I can't wait to tell that one to a national audience. The Kenny and Renny audience will know it if they went and they checked out that show with him. We haven't been able to tell it because he really hasn't broken out. Now, he too, like Vesaalainen, gets off the schneid tonight. He gets an assist. He's on the board. But are you seeing a frustrated player? Greg Millen had taken a look and thought that maybe he's seeing a little bit of frustration creep into the game, and maybe frustration's not the way to say it, but trying to get the puck on net, kind of doing everything he can. Or maybe the best way to say it is he doesn't look like he's got the most confident posture. We know what he looks like when he has that. What are you seeing from him, Ken?
Yeah, this is the thing. I don't think we're seeing peak Nikolaj Ehlers, but this is another night where he had 5 shots on goal and 9 attempts. So, again, he's involved offensively. He's skating well at times. Were there a couple chances maybe where he tried to force a pass, maybe a no-look or something like that? Sure. Were the Jets wanting to get something done with Ehlers, getting it, at least he got a point. So that's a start for him. To me, Ehlers addressed this perfectly. 5 games without a goal. Is it a surprise? Of course, but that's a compliment to Nikolaj Ehlers about how important he is to the Winnipeg Jets. He's had 3 games where he was very, very involved in the offense, and 2 where it was a little bit quieter, but I don't think he's playing poorly. I just don't think that he's playing at a peak level right now. So for me, I put Nikolaj Ehlers down at the very bottom of the chart when it comes to things that the team would have any concern about. I think he's still moving the puck pretty well. Does he have another level to reach? Of course, we know that. Nick Ehlers can be a point-a-game player. He is still a play driver, even when he's not producing offense at the rate we're expecting of him. But he still, to me, has had moments of being dynamic. And like I said, I think Nikolaj Ehlers, when he gets one, this reminds me of the story about back in Finland about Patrick Laine when we spoke with Teemu Selanne before the game where Laine got the hat trick. He said he's got Heinz ketchup syndrome. You keep batting on the top of the lid, and when it comes out, it's not just a little bit for your fries. It powers out, and then all of a sudden it's going to explode and erupt everywhere. So for me, obviously other teams are giving a lot of attention to Nikolaj Ehlers, and he's okay with that. So for me, I think that he's been fine. I think he will get going, and I think it's just a matter of time before he gets to that level that we were expecting. And again, I wrote the column in preseason. I think Ehlers is going to score 40 this year. I'm not moving off of that because he has 0 goals through 5 games. This is a guy who is a dominant force. He's an elite skater, one of the best in the entire league. He's looking for a shot. He's getting his shot through, and it's only a matter of time before he erupts offensively.
You know what, Ken? I've been thinking about this very deeply. It's been keeping me up at night. What's up with Nick Ehlers? And I'm going to tell you right now, I think I figured it out. I think I know exactly what it was. And we can pin this specifically on one person. And that person is Sportsnet's own Elliot Friedman. And I'm going to tell you why. If
That's not nice. Come on, we want Elliot to come back on our show. Let's go.
He'll come back. Elliot can take it. Believe me. Elliot can take the ribbing. He can hand it out. He dish it out. He can take it in. Elliot Friedman on Wednesday Night Hockey, first game of the year, Winnipeg Jets against the Anaheim Ducks, said on that show that he puts Nick Ehlers up alongside Connor McDavid for potential to win the Hart Trophy this year. I don't know if those were his specific words, but he brought Nick Ehlers into the Hart Trophy conversation, and that is one. I think he jinxed him, Ken. I think he jinxed him.
I don't.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm on Team Elliot on this one, buddy. I'm on Team Elliot on this one.
I'm just telling you. He said that, and this is what I did. I was ready to go live. I had the microphone in my hand. He said that, and my eyes bugged out, and I said, "Well, that's a big statement, Ken. Don't you think?" It is a big statement. Honestly, and huge Nick Ehlers fan, but in order to get into the stratosphere of a Connor McDavid, who's given every single opportunity to succeed on his Oilers team, all of the ice time, all of the power play time, all of the empty net time, all of the holding a lead time, all of the trying to play your way back into a game time. You need to find another player who gets that exact same opportunity. And
we need the paddle. We need the paddle.
Yeah, I know. We got to get that. But I'm telling you, that was a big.
Hey, he didn't say he was going to win. He didn't say he was going to win. He said he could be in contention. And hey, while we're on the subject, right now Kyle Connor would be in contention, right? Neck and neck with Connor McDavid for the goals lead. You'd have to put
neck. For the goals lead, yeah. But
I said with the goals lead. I didn't say he was the MVP of the league. Connor McDavid is the clear winner of the trophy. But guess what? There are always going to be a few finalists. So to this point, I would say Kyle Connor has been the best Jets player, the most productive player.
Hands down. So here's the question. Is this the best hockey that we've, before you go back to trying to defend Elliot Friedman, is this the best hockey that you've ever seen Kyle Connor play?
Yes, I would say maybe a close second would be the 2017-18 playoffs where that line with Scheifele and Wheeler was absolutely dominant. Kyle Connor was flying, scoring big goals in that series. The 38-goal season was, an exceptional stretch for him. But right now, his all-around game has been impressive. That's what I'm seeing. And it's not only in one end of the ice. A lot of folks have been critical of Kyle Connor needing to improve that game. To me, he has shown those improvements in the early stages. Obviously, you have to do it over the long course, but he's doing a nice job along the boards. And his back pressure, he's using his elite level speed for back pressure and defensive play. And I've been very impressed by him. And boy, oh boy, he had a couple of just absolutely glorious chances. He scored a rocket of a goal on a pass from Schmidt where Saros actually did a good job to get over, but he just couldn't find it. That's how good the shot was. But he had a couple of bursts of speed where he absolutely left Alex Carrier in the dust. He was basically almost half a zone behind him when that play started at the blue line, Sean. He blew by him and got a great scoring chance out of it. To me, Kyle Connor is playing like a guy who is just at an impressive level, and there's more to do for him. I mean, and that's the scary thing. I mean, Kyle Connor has all the tools in the toolbox, and he is playing at an elite level right now.
You know what has impressed me most about him? There was a couple times tonight where I saw him, and I'm just going to get this comment off of here. There's a couple times tonight where I saw him with the puck, and he made those like fast hands moves and just created so much space for himself from a defender, like just absolutely lost him. And there's a couple times he's done it to create space where I thought he could dive back in and attack that space. Or maybe a better way to say it is, and Kenny, you played hockey, and sometimes you get out, and whether you felt like this at a junior A level or a college level, or if you were with a bunch of kids out on the rink, when you get that feeling that you're like a step above everybody else, sometimes you like start taking chances and you start pushing and you start seeing how far you can take it. Well, I think Kyle Connor right now could be taking his game further than he is at this moment, but he's acting in a cautious manner where he's not trying to push it as far as he can, maybe turn over the puck, get caught up ice, and cause something on the back end. He's done what he's done playing conservatively, and he's playing conservatively because there's two big guys out of the lineup, and he doesn't want to be that guy. And he doesn't want to be that guy that, creates that bad turnover that changes the game, turns it in the other direction. He's playing defensively responsible. He's a step ahead of everyone else right now. He could be pushing it. He's not pushing it. And I just think right now it's showing a guy who's extremely aware. And I'll go back to it, and this is all a comment. We might as well make it Winnipeg terminology as picked up on by Coach Paul Maurice. He likes to call guys who get things done out there a driver. You are right. Kyle Connor is the biggest driver on this Winnipeg Jets team right now. And I would argue that as good a scorer as he has been in the past, the moments where we've seen him be a driver on this team haven't been as plentiful as would happen with a player of that caliber who scores the way he scores. He is full on got the leather driving gloves with a little scare patch in the back. He's got his hands on the leather wheel, and he is taking this team down the road right now.
And the most impressive thing about what he's been able to do at speed, Sean, he does it while carrying the puck. Like, a lot of guys can have straight line speed when they're in open space. He's doing it when he has the puck on his stick. He's blowing by guys and splitting the defense with that great speed. So I've been very impressed by him. Hey, I know a lot of people wanted to see more from him. He's showing more, and I don't think he's reached the ceiling yet. I really don't. Yeah, here you go. Here's one for you, buddy. Here's one for you.
There we go. Well, I should pull out the leather gloves then. I wanted to say, someone said earlier on that they really liked the interview with it was Joe from Winnipeg. It said he really liked the post game interview with Nate Schmidt, and I was going to say, yeah, it was phenomenal. And I really thought that the host really teed it up and started it off with a good question. I just think it all flows from good questions. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, hey, let's move on. Someone was talking about net front presence.
Sure.
We've been on this, and we've been on the Winnipeg Jets, and I went on a rant a couple shows ago about the idea of the Jets. When they have success, it's when they go to the net. What have you seen from them in the last two games, or is that what you've seen from them in the last two games, that they're getting to the front of the net? And taking a guy like UC Saros, who we were talking about as being a big storyline, and it's funny, I had a feeling, I said this going into the coming out of the first intermission, Marco, the producer, was saying in my ear, what story do you want to do? And I said, I think we should do the story on UC Saros and talk about him, because I have the feeling the Jets are about to light him up, and it's going to be hard to tell UC Saros stories after the Jets are piling the goals onto him. But what have you seen in the Jets' ability to get to the net front?
Yeah, a couple things. Obviously, we saw it with the Vesaalainen tip, but I think one thing that, what may not have been as evident to the naked eye, Sean, on the first power play goal by Paul Stastny, Stastny does a great job of knowing when to try to take away the eyes of Saros, right? I mean, he goes from one side of the net to the other. The puck moves, I believe, from Pionk at the top over to Kyle Connor. He comes across at the perfect time and then gets the old snow shovel out for the rebound, right, Sean? That was the thing. On that Stastny goal, it's his body positioning, and when he goes across, when the one-timer comes, that allows him to get that lane open to shovel in that rebound. And to me, that was really impressive. And boy, oh boy, when you're a young player trying to find your way, Vesaalainen, you know what? Big body. Get to the net. We know you can skate. We know you can shoot. But if it's not going well, this is a great thing about what Nikolaj Ehlers told us yesterday. He said, I need to go to the dirty areas and get kind of a dirty one to get me going. And that's what Vesaalainen did today. You go to the tough area and you get yourself a goal. And I want to talk about the other guy on that line quite quickly here too, Sean. You mentioned earlier about how at times the Jets seem to be missing a little bit of that Matthew Perreault quality, both in terms of being in front of the net and being that chaos creator on the forecheck. Jansen Harkins, step right up. You are the early edition leader for the Matthew Perreault Chaos Creator Award. I think he's done a great job of having his feet moving. He's been able to get to the net, and he's also doing a nice job of batting those pucks down, which is what we saw so often from Matthew Perreault during his time as a member of the Winnipeg Jets.
I want to take it back to the defense, and we talked
and
about
one quick
this
one,
earlier.
sorry. Matthew Perreault hat trick tonight for the old. Yeah, I'm cutting you off one more time. Matthew Perreault hat trick tonight.
2 assists for Sami Niku as well. It was. You know what? The Montreal Canadiens needed to get going, and they turned to the Winnipeg Jets to get them rolling up the road there. That's exactly what they needed. Now, if I can recollect my thoughts here, after Kenny took it in an entirely different direction, he doesn't know the roles. I'm the host here, Ken, but going
You're
back
the driver.
defense,
I'm the passenger. The passenger, I'm the guy, you know what I'm doing, Sean? When you're the driver of the bus, I'm the guy pulling the thing. Next stop is for me. Ding, ding. Let's go.
I think it's more like you're the guy reaching over and grabbing a hold of the wheel and trying to steer your way through here. So go back to defense and the idea of the net front presence. Here's one of the things that I think is the importance of Nate Schmidt, and definitely the way that the Jets defense is playing right now, is we talk about going to the front of the net and getting that chaos in there, but it doesn't matter if you don't get the puck to the net front, right? And so the thing that is highlighting the fact that the Jets are getting to the front of the net this year, or excuse me, in the last couple of games, is the fact that they've got defense who are recognizing those moments when it happens and getting the puck to the net front and making it happen. So I gotta say, it's just, I take it back to the defense and the job that they've been doing. Hey, there is a mute button on here. I should be using that. What's going on here? But yeah, the idea that the defense is recognizing that net foot presence and making sure that they get the puck to the front of the net. They've done a good job with that. And I'm going to stop making this point because I think that well, we got to go one last place here, Ken, before we get out of here.
Should.
I'm going to try and meet up with the Hockey Night in Canada crew. But where do you want to go? Where do you want to take this? Since you want to drive so bad, Ken, here's your chance. Take the wheel. Where do you want to go?
Well, let's just briefly go to the penalty kill. We know we've been handing out a lot of
time left. Yeah, we've been blowing a lot of smoke.
Sorry, we've been praising a lot here so far. Man, oh man, penalty kill needs to improve and quickly. Of course, there's a couple of strange bounces again, but boy, oh boy, I'm going to tell you right now, that shift that Nick Cousins had, that sequence where he gets away with the cross check on Neil Pionk in the corner, then goes for the, I don't know, maybe this is like WCW NWO style. He sees Brendan Dillon coming, and he absolutely throws himself into him and draws the roughing minor. And then, you know what else he does? After drawing the penalty, he gets involved in front with Neil Pionk again, cross checks him one more time, then gets inside position and bangs home the rebound. And poor Nick Cousins, he doesn't even get credit for the next power play goal because of the offside challenge after he takes the shot from Roman Josi in the chest and then gets the rebound and scores. But I love the effort from Nick Cousins, but boy oh boy, the penalty kill needs to tighten up, man. And to give up the goal, I mean, again, I know there was a strange bounce there, but with Tomasino scoring so quickly after the disallowed goal. Man, oh man, that could have been demoralizing for them, and they just need to do a little better job. I think there had been signs at times of the Jets doing a little better job, but yeah, we've talked about this. Jets PK right now has been a little bit too passive. Paul Stastny talked about it in his post-game Zoom call. He thought he saw some improvement, but it needs to be tighter. It needs to do, the reads got to get better, and they need to do a little better. You saw a few more block shots, but they need to do a little better job of getting into passing lanes and shooting lanes, and also clearing the front of the net a little bit more. I think that is an area where the Jets need to clean that up as well. But were there some signs? Sure, but let's tell you right now, 10 of 22, not going to cut it, and we know that's not going to cut it. And we don't think that that's going to be the case, but the clears need to be better as well. I mean, there are a bunch of things the Jets need to do better. They can do better on it, but Paul Stastny, he is the voice of reason on the Jets, Sean. He said you'd rather see some of those unlucky goals happen than if you're allowing the backdoor tap-ins, and that's something the Jets have done a really good job at preventing so far, but there still is a lot of time and a lot of things they need to clean up, that's for sure.
Paul Stastny, the voice of reason, that makes you the Paul Stastny of KNR. That's quite often people will say, you're the voice of reason.
That's a compliment. That's a compliment.
It is a compliment. That's exactly why I'm bringing it up. Hey, I'm not here to spit fire. I'm here to build you up. We've been blowing lots of smoke towards the Jets. I'm going to blow some smoke towards you tonight. I agree with you. That Predators third line was absolutely phenomenal tonight. Like, they were... I was not expecting that. When I took a look at their third line, I was thinking to myself, Lowry, if they get matched up against them, are going to eat them up. And boy, oh boy, does this helicopter drive all night long here? Like, this is
amazing.
Crazy. It is. I can't believe how often they say, I should give people a look at what's happening on the ice here. This guy goes around in this little gator and he just sprays the ice with water, and he just does it all night long. Like, honestly, I think either this guy wraps up at like 8 o'clock in the morning after doing this all night, or as soon as we're done, like someone suggested, he wraps up. He's like, okay, KNR is over. Okay, my moment in the sun is done. But yeah, that third line was phenomenal. The first line, Kenny, for the Predators, my goodness. I mean, this is an attempt to do kind of what the Jets like to do when they put Wheeler, Scheifele, and Kyle Connor on the first line. It's like, let's take and just throw everything on that top line and not save it for anything else. If you're going to do that, that line better show up. And I don't mean on the score sheet, but you better hem the opposition in their end and give them everything they can handle. If you are going to take your three best players and put them on one line, I didn't see that tonight. And I asked John Hines before the game about that line and when he expects them to break out. He'd said he believed they'd been playing good hockey. I hadn't watched enough of their earlier games, but I'd expected that it was one of these situations where they had been playing good hockey and they were going to, break out at some point. I'm not seeing that from that line. I'm seeing, on the power play, they seem to snap the puck around a little bit. But boy, oh boy, I don't see that team going much of anywhere. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of blown away that they made that late season push and made the playoffs last year. I know it's a different roster right now, but it was still the same guys driving the bus there. How that team, they're a little bit like the Jets. The Jets were in danger of missing the playoffs, and they got into the play-in round by virtue of, COVID and them extending things. Nashville got in by that same token. I can't believe Nashville is a team that keeps making the playoffs because, I'll be honest with you, Ken, I don't think that highly of it. What's your take on that team?
Yeah, I want to see him more than once, Sean, but man, that some flashes from Forsberg, but boy, oh boy, that was a tough outing for Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene. That is for certain. And your top guys have to be great, and they can't be not mediocre or poor. I mean, that just isn't going to cut it. I still love the way Roman Josi plays. He was an absolute force at times out there on the ice, but their best player up front was Jeannot. What a start to the game. He wanted to fight like 4 or 5 people. He made a great pass on the first goal. He's out there hammering guys, but there's tons of guys who weren't even there were too many passengers on that Nashville team. Some of their guys obviously play hard, but man, they need more. They need more Genots out there. Boy, oh boy, it's a different looking team. Team looks so much different without Ryan Ellis, and man, I'll be curious to see how they do in the Central Division. I mean, I didn't have them as a playoff team. I think they're an excellent franchise. David Poile is an excellent general manager. I think we've seen over the years he's not afraid to make big moves, but a lot of his big ticket guys that are left, they're be incredibly difficult to move. So they're obviously going to have to rely on their goaltending and get a little bit tighter defensively.
Ken, just to not belabor your point.
One quick thing. Last time, and that's a strikeout because we need to end the show. Some folks were asking about Scheifele. We know that Blake Wheeler cannot rejoin the Jets until at least Wednesday, so he can't play in the first game, and then he would still need to be symptom-free before he could join the team in California. In terms of Mark Scheifele, it's still status quo for him. He will need 2 clean tests separated by a 24-hour period. So I know one of the first questions of the show, will Scheifele be on the road trip? We don't know that as of today, and we may not know that as of Monday, to be perfectly honest. We're going to have to see how it goes on that front, or the Jets will have to see how it goes, and we'll obviously be updating you as quickly as we can. But that's where things stand in terms of the 2 players in the NHL's COVID protocol.
One thing I can tell you about this point made here by Second Dimension, are we concerned that Dubois will regress if these lines are split? I don't know how you can split this line, but I have a feeling it will happen. I think from what we've heard, we wouldn't be one bit surprised if there's at least an adjustment to that line, although we started the show talking about the idea that there's probably going to be an exploration of what Dubois and Kyle Connor can do together. But I can tell you this, Ken, when those players do return, there's going to be plenty to talk about in the Kenny and Renny post-game show when it comes to how Paul Maurice juggles his lineup when those players are back. Because I'm thinking fans are starting to see a lot of stuff they like, and maybe some of the stuff they like is not going to be happening anymore once those 2 players do get back. Once again, our chat room, absolutely rocking it. You rocked it tonight, Ken. I think we want to get out of here and see if we can't go and see the Hockey Night in Canada crew and show them some appreciation for the great job they did here tonight. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will be back. When's the next game, Ken?
Tuesday versus the Anaheim Ducks. We will be back. It's and then too, let's also promote it. I mean, we have our first longer form show will be on Thursday afternoon, coming out of Hustlers Winnipeg Sports Talk. We have one for sure guest confirmed. Frank Saravalli is going to join us right off the top. And do we have our second, Sean, or not yet?
Not locked
in.
Okay. We're shooting for Carolyn Cameron, who's the new host of Wednesday Night Hockey, and just an awesome broadcaster. She doesn't even know that yet. Maybe she's watching live and she just heard about it again. We'll see. Anyways, thank you everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. Looking forward to seeing you next time. We'll see you on the post-game show on Tuesday after the Jets play the Anaheim Ducks.